Am I overreacting for going no contact with my MIL? To start off, I apologize in advance for the length of this post, as there is just so much to say. I 27F, Liz, and my fiancé 25M, Jared, have been together for almost 3 years. I will say I've never had the best relationship with his mother, Kendall, as we have very different personalities and ways of viewing life. To go back to the beginning, I met my now fiancé on Bumble. We hit it off and just started talking like we already knew each other. He opened up to me about his past, including his history with drug abuse starting at the age of 16. For context, this happened when his stepfather's coworker came to live with his family. Unbeknownst to them, this man was addicted to meth and was the one to introduce it to my fiancé. I will admit that in a way, I've resented his parents for not vetting this man more before giving him a couch to sleep on right outside their kid's bedroom. I grew up with an overprotective dad, and the idea of that happening was wild to me. Fast forward to over a year later, when they finally realized how far their child had fallen into this addiction, they kicked the man out, but by this point he had already shown my fiancé where to get the drugs. Jared continued down this rabbit hole of darkness that would continue throughout the next 6 years, with many trips to rehab centers. Whenever I first met Jared, he was still struggling with the overall addiction, such as drinking heavily on a daily basis, and 2 weeks into our meeting, he had a slip and relapsed on meth after having been clean for about a year. I had my reservations but decided to keep seeing him. About 5 months later, he and his family got into an extremely bad argument, so he moved in with me. He has since stayed clean off meth and has drastically reduced his drinking, since I'm not the biggest fan of it, and has also been making big efforts to better himself. Over the years, he shared with me some of the things he has gone through as a child/teenager. Me, having some deep-rooted trauma from my mother abandoning me, has led me to practically hate the mothers of those I love whenever they do something wrong. I know that is not okay, and I recognize that, and it is something that I have been working on and have really made some changes in that regard. Having said that, after hearing all the things from Jared, it just made me hate his mother. Whenever he would try and talk to her about his past, she would act like he was just making it up. He mentioned to her how one of her ex-boyfriends used to hit him when she wasn't around, and she flat out said that it was not true. She does not acknowledge that a grown man introduced him to drugs. She blames him. He does fully take responsibility, and obviously the drug abuse once the man left the house was all on Jared, but his teenage self did not just introduce himself to it. All of the things he told me just made me hate his parents more and more, and I have gotten into many arguments with his mom about her taking no responsibility for her son's addiction in any way. I don't mean that they are to blame for the entirety of his addiction, I mean that they failed to protect him and see no wrong with having let the guy move in. I guess in my head, if this had happened to my son, my thought would be, how could I have missed this? This is my fault. All of this on its own made me not want to have a close relationship with them personally. I did not keep Jared from his mother, nor did I encourage him to cut her off. Back in November of 2023, I found I was pregnant. We obviously told our family, and they were all excited for us, including my mother-in-law. I had hoped that maybe this was going to be a time where we could bond and get closer, but what was already a strained relationship just got worse throughout my pregnancy. His mom and stepdad had no respect for the boundaries we had planned for once my son got here, including her not seeing him the day I had my C-section, and the rules for when they did get to meet him, like washing hands and changing clothes, as they are chain smokers. I had informed them previously about the rules and why I was setting them in place. I didn't want my baby to smell like cigarettes or be exposed to third-hand smoke. My delivery did not go as planned, and I had to have a C-section. I wanted my comfort people there in the waiting room. Those people were my best friend, my dad, and my stepmom. Once Kendall found out, she asked if she could just be in the waiting room with them and that she would leave with them once she heard that baby and I were good. I said yes, as that was fair. When she got to the waiting room, she brought her husband, her husband's father, and her parents, as well as her daughter, on the way. She told my friend that they were all just gonna see the baby and leave. My fiancé went to the waiting room to tell her again that I wasn't comfortable letting her meet him that day. She tried to argue back, but he stayed firm and told them they could come back the next day, and she agreed. The next day, she told us what time she was coming, but showed up 3 hours later after visiting hours were over. When she came in, she came straight to my baby and I, and literally took my baby from my arms. She did not wash her hands, and she did not ask. After a few minutes, he started crying. Jared asked for her to give the baby to him, but she said that she had it. Jared had to ask for him 3 times before she finally gave him back. Fast forward a little, and I guess raising our son really got to my fiancé. He did not want our son to have a similar life that he had. He wanted our son's relationship with Kendall to be better than what he had. He sent a text to his mom addressing his feelings about his childhood and how he wanted her to go to therapy in hopes they could learn to communicate better. He stated that until then, he would be going no contact. She said no, and that she wouldn't be wasting her money on that. He continued the no contact till Hurricane Helene hit. He caved to see if his mom was okay, and after that she acted like nothing happened. She started calling him a few times a week asking to see our baby, and I just avoided the situation. Most recently he wanted to go to get his CDLs so that he could get a career that would support our little family. We are low income and make do with what we have, but we definitely did have the money sitting around to pay for his CDLs. He mentioned the idea to his grandparents and they agreed till his mom went and showed them the text he sent. His grandmother was livid, and when we went to get the check for the classes she went in on him for half an hour about how disrespectful he was and that it was extremely immature of him. She said that he needs to leave the past in the past and forgive. She was saying his mom did her best to raise him and he should be on his hands and knees kissing her feet for all the things she did for him. She also mentioned they wouldn't be paying for the classes they had agreed to. That was okay because in the end, it is their money, and they can do as they please. Thankfully my best friend loaned him the money and he has been able to move forward. Kendall had told her parents that she had introduced me to my OB, as it was hers. This was not true. My best friend introduced me because it was her OB. She told them that she paid to get my expired birth control taken out. That was not true, as my insurance paid for that. She told them that she is the one who convinced me not to have an abortion, when in reality, the moment I heard his heartbeat, I was convinced. And finally, she told them that she drove me to all my appointments. This was not true. In the very beginning my best friend drove me because I had an unreliable car. The rest of the pregnancy, I drove myself because my friend bought me a car. So basically, because of all of this, I have officially decided that I am done with Jared's side of the family. I have told him that he is free to have whatever relationship with them that he wants and I will support that. I need to be the best mother I can be to our son, and he does not deserve to see me stressed out and constantly mad about people. So am I overreacting?